I want to give a huge thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. Therapy isn't something to run away from, it's a vessel to run towards. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service and it's 100% online, so break out your comfies. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time. Anytime. And schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. No more fumbling to get a session on the calendar. You schedule based on when the time is right for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. Therapy changed my life for the better. Pun intended. And with BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Rocky. That's betterhelp.com/Rocky. It was an absolute party in Indiana this week. That's right, Farm Aid 2023 went down and your girl had a front row seat. Not literally, but my seats were really good. And I didn't have a first class seat either. I kept it modest in coach when we flew down or over and down, or I don't know. I'm still not 100% sure where Indiana is on the map. And I don't get paid to be a map expert, so I won't be learning that today. My guess is south. I have a quick gripe, so let's dig in. I have an Amex card. Hold your applause. But there are so many levels of Amex, and mine is one of the ones that, let's just call it the backbone, the stepping stone, the base of other Amexes. A starter Amex, perhaps? I got this Amex specifically to earn points on flights and say things at parties like, yes, I'm going to Ibiza, but it's really not that expensive because I used my points. When I bought my flight, they wanted me to pay an extra $30 to pick my seat. This has to be a newish thing, right? How very Spirit Airlines of you, Delta. Otherwise, they're going to give you a random seat. Yeah. That's fine. Give me a random seat, Delta. I'm traveling solo. I have wonderful luck. I'm sure I'll get a window seat, and I'm positive I don't need to spend the extra to get it. Well, it turns out if you don't spend the extra to pick your seat, you don't get the points. You don't get miles. That really hurt my feelings. Everything is a scam. Everything is a gimmick. I did, however, board first after first class. Queen of the pores. When I got on that plane, I damn near shouted, "Will the lifeboats be seated according to class?" And it is so annoying that you can't travel with weed on your carry-on. I'm not talking oil pens. I'm talking grass, man. Government, are you listening? Okay, close your ears. Everybody else, what are your sneaky tips? Send them to lawabiding-citizen-Rocky-P@hotmail.org. It is bullshit, though. I take a joint to the face before leaving, and by the time I get to the airport, I'm regular again. I'm trying to be high in the sky, not think about my to-do list while my ears pop. Before you hear it from someone else, I'll be the first to admit that the second I leave the Northeast, I double down on my Northeastness. It happens the second I land. Immediately, I turn into Stacey Carosi. The water here sucks. Everything's closed. You call that pizza, you villains? Blech. This clean air is making me sick, and even though I can't stand a car horn, I start yearning to hear one. Just to feel alive. If you don't get the Stacey Carosi reference, by the way, that's prime Leah Remini. Do a little research and spend the summer at the beach club with everyone's favorite boss's daughter. I get myself food at this restaurant called Aspen Grill across from my hotel. It's 10:30 at night, and while I'm sitting at the bar waiting for it, the guy next to me says the word fuck. Then immediately turned to me and said, "I apologize, miss, for my language." I just smiled and I looked away because, stranger danger. But also, he didn't make my box rock, so I found no need to engage. Then I said to myself, out loud, to him, in my head, I don't care that you said fuck. I just hope that you're pro-choice. He wasn't, it turns out, and I'm keeping it. You may be wondering what Farm Aid is and why I volunteer for it every year. In fact, a lot of you were wondering. My DMs were riddled with that question, and I promise you, by the end of this episode, you're going to be well versed in Farm Aid. But for now, it's a concert that was started by Willie Nelson in 1985 with the help of John Mellencamp and Neil Young, and later on, Dave Matthews and Margo Price. The concert is meant to raise money for farmers across America. This year, my volunteer position was PAing for the director of all Farm Aid's digital content. And let me tell you, it was so cool, so different than years past. And because this was my assignment, I got to sit in on this super informative 6-hour panel, and we'll get to that later. I just felt awesome walking around with her and the cool-ass cameraman and boom. Events like this, you get a feel for people quickly, so I'm really happy I gelled with 3 dope people and we spent a lot of time together. On the day of the actual concert, in the morning after we set up the camera for an event that was happening later, we start walking around the grounds of the venue, and Neil Young, Dave Matthews, Willie Nelson, and John Mellencamp are on stage doing a press event with some of the farmers who were being highlighted throughout the day. And because I was lucky enough to be with an HBIC, well, we walked right down to the front and got to watch these guys second row center. And I'm not gonna pretend like that wasn't cool, okay? Later, I failed to look at the schedule of who was playing when, and since the artists play all day, I just kind of thought I could pop in and out. And my guy, well, if you're a listener of the podcast, you already know I loves me some Lukas Nelson. The voice, the passion, the lyrics, the looks, top to bottom, whole package. John tells me that Lukas is playing at 4:20. I don't know, but this seems kismet. Everyone's favorite young, supple, stoner, hottie, yours truly, and legitimate rock star extraordinaire Lukas Nelson performing at the most sacred of times, 4:20. I'm about to give you a gift. Clean your ears and listen up, you non-guitar playing fucking losers. I'm sorry I called you non-guitar playing fucking losers. I didn't mean it. It's just I think I'm not interested in your thoughts or opinion unless you can rip on a guitar in that way or comparable. John Mellencamp has a song called Play Guitar. It's all about how men shouldn't worry about all the shiny things, the cars, the lifting weights, looking pretty. They should learn how to play guitar. In fact, one of the lyrics is, forget all that macho shit and learn how to play guitar. And honestly, he's right. I'm not saying be the annoying guy at the campfire who's pulling out the acoustic to do a bad cover of Hotel California while people are trying to just quietly bond over their childhood traumas and smoke a J. By the way, you're in the wrong key, bruh. But I think there's no time like the present to learn electric, baby boys. John Mellencamp did not sing play guitar, but he did bring down the house, and that's because he's a rock star. And he's so cute. I have a theory that if Justin Timberlake ages like John Mellencamp, we got some future eye candy on our hands, baby. They look really similar, and with John Cougar Mellencamp, I'm not sure sexy ever left. And speaking of sex, last year, and this is true, at Farm Aid in Raleigh, I signed up for Farmers Only, the dating site where you can find a farmer to, reap and sow. I don't even think I really got to swiping, but I'm a changed woman after this Farm Aid 2023. I may reopen it and see what the NYC farmer scene is like. Bonus, if he plays guitar. After John Mellencamp, there's a little break in between acts, and we had a ton of these adorable buttons, so we start going around to our section and passing them out. The way I did it is I went around and I said, "Excuse me, do you have good vibes?" Of course, I already knew who had good vibes because I can feel your vibes, so if I wasn't feeling their vibes, I wasn't approaching their spaces. And that's my gift, besides the buttons. Everyone I went up to answered yes, and their faces lit up like Christmas morning when I gave them their cute little buttons. I'm happy to help you, tiny concert goers. If you want to pay it forward, I don't know, let someone merge into traffic. Where are you rushing to anyway, huh? Everyone who I passed out pins to probably thought I was on drugs, but I wasn't. I know I'm shocked too, but my drug of choice was live music. And I was also full of liquid death. Have you ever had this water fresh from the Alps? It comes in a can, and I don't want to say too much because they don't sponsor the pod. Yet. I went to assist on a corn dog run during Neil Young, which is perhaps the most Hoosier thing I will ever say. The line for these corn dogs was outrageous. Papaya Dog does not have them waiting off to the side like that, and I would know. When we got back to our seat, Bob Dylan was the surprise guest, backed by the Heartbreakers. Some of you right now are like, dope. And some of you are like, who? And I'm over here like, bring out the Tom Petty hologram. I didn't chant that. I did have to stand for Bob Dylan's whole set because I may have lost my mojo if I sat down for it. I got a little sleepy. No shade to Bob Dylan. I just don't have any real personal connection to him or his catalog, and you can't fault me on that. I like a downbeat. And then closing out the show is the reason for the season, the legend, Willie Nelson. So cute. When Willie comes out, he plays with his sons. Sometimes they'll sing his songs, sometimes they'll sing their own songs, and they'll do a couple of covers. Do you know the song Texas Flood? It's a blues song originally recorded by Larry Davis, made famous by Stevie Ray Vaughan. Well, every year Lucas Nelson sings it. If you have a spare pair of panties nearby, I suggest you watch previous year's performances. Watching and listening and witnessing him play the song, I don't know, what's the politest way to say I came? Well, I could see how someone could. All I have to say is, don't go chasing waterfalls. Whew. That was a water noise. It was just like otherworldly. Every year his voice gets richer and deeper and more soulful and sweet. Jesus, just go watch it. It's no surprise the name of the song is Texas Flood. Guaranteed to be an absolute panty-dropping, pipeline-busting, grab your galoshes. Ditch the umbrella and prepare for absolute aquatic devastation down under. Don't forget your life vest, and for the love of God, bring a snorkel. Willie Nelson is my birthday twin. Me and Willie share the same birthday. One of my most prized possessions is a weed tray that my dear friend who attended his birthday concert, well, his 90th birthday concert at the Hollywood Bowl this year got me. It says April 29th, because duh. It says Willie Nelson. It says Hollywood Bowl. Fucking iconic. It says WN, which, yes, stands for Willie Nelson, but it also stands for Wild Nights, baby. It also says Long Story Short. And what is Wild Night if not a library of stories? And speaking of stories, I am so happy and grateful to have added more short farm-aid stories to the long story of my life. I have to shout out Cindy, John, Renee, Lori, Ricky, Susan, Rex, Mark, the chefs, thanks chefs, Caroline, and the farmers. They're the backbone of America, and I had no idea.
Time for
Duh.
Welcome to the Rocky Rundown, where you get to learn a little bit about my week. Party God Squad, hello. Did you have a good week? This week was jam-packed with my third time volunteering at Farm Aid, and it's usually a lot of work and a lot of play, and this year I played for sure. I had an amazing time, but it was different. I spent 6 hours essentially watching a panel town hall event made up mostly of farmers or people who work closely with farmers or lawyers of farmers, speaking to a like-minded crowd in a conference center. They were all talking about what their current experience as a farmer is like, what they're going through, and this upcoming farm bill, which is really important. If you're anything like me, you may be or have been living in sweet, sweet, blissful ignorance. There was no choice for me at this meeting other than to pay attention. Up until this time, I just thought Farm Aid was this fun little music festival that raises a little money for hardworking farmers across America. And then we party Saturday night. But I was wrong. I was so wrong, in fact, that while sitting through this town hall, I became so invested that I started taking notes like I was in school. Because so many members of our Dear Party God squad, they also don't know. Just like I didn't. And how could we? It's not something we hear people often discussing. So how would anyone know the farmers are in trouble? I'm not going to sit here and say that sometimes I don't fantasize about the shiny glimmers of capitalism. I'm not going to act like they don't entice me. Yachts, caviar, mansions, money to blow, private jets wherever, whenever. The best doctors. While the other half of me is like, stop that. Come back down to earth.
There's people that are dying.
While knowing goddamn well, capitalism is killing and is going to kill us all. So if you're doe-eyed and unaware like me, let's talk about what they're not talking about in most rooms. This podcast means so much to me. Partying, laughing, raging, celebrating, people being genuinely good and having a genuinely good time together. That means the world to me. But all those things can't happen if people are constantly worried about where their next meal, their next paycheck, how they're going to pay their medical bills should they have to. We may not have been the ones to design this system that's working actually exactly how it should, to suck the life and every penny and ounce of energy out of all of us. But we can make little choices every day in our own worlds, not the whole world, but in our own worlds, to mend it. I'm an Eddie Murphy song, baby, and your girl wants to party all the time. If we keep sweeping things under the rug, there will be no place to party, you dig? I'll start with the 3 I's. The 3 I's are under siege. The 3 I's are Iowa, Idaho, and Indiana. Of the 3, Indiana claims to have the best farmland. But I'm sure Iowa and Idaho are not too far behind. And when I say they're under siege, what I mean is corporations are buying up farmland in these places. And why do they want to do that? They want to do that, my little chickadees, for factory farming. Factory farming is what's killing the independent farmer. Factory farmed foods are mass-produced and responsible for cancer and disease, killing we the people. The slaughterhouses have unimaginable conditions for the animals. By the way, when I say that, I'm not speaking as a vegetarian sitting upon her high horse. I'm a carnivore at sea level. But that doesn't mean the meat I've been consuming isn't harmful and coming from a nasty-ass place. Who works in the Tyson and Purdue factories? Migrant children make up 1/3 of the workers at Purdue's plants. And they do overnight cleaning and their children. Marcos Crux or Cucks or Cox, I don't know, 3 different sources have 3 different spellings of his name. Probably because all of us are so invested in the story, they're just trying to cover all their bases. Keeping us on our toes, I'm sure. He had his arm mangled while working at the Purdue slaughterhouse. A representative from Purdue said, "We recognize the systemic nature of this issue and embrace any role we can play in a solution." I'll translate that for you. I don't give a fuck about you or anything that you do. Devon Robert Tomas Perez was a migrant teen killed in July at a Mississippi poultry plant. His whole body was pulled into the machine while cleaning. Uh-oh. We just turned our regularly scheduled comedy podcast into a bona fide true crime episode. Let's call it pod cosplay, because oh boy, is this true. When xenophobic, insufferable maniacs are chanting, "Build the wall!" Surprise! They're just talking about building a wall around your local poultry plant. You're still going to be able to go to Cancun, Rebecca, and Mexico's going to pay for it. This is not news we're going to hear about, even though we fucking should. Instead, we have to learn that Lauren Boebert queefed on herself at Beetlejuice while getting fingered and vaping. Oh, and she was wearing a little Gucci dress. Yeah, that's called a good Wednesday night. Welcome to the party, Boebert. Now, will you please go to therapy and deal with the fact that you probably had some bad stuff happen to you when you were a child to turn you into such a cunt. And now the rest of us have to deal with it. Stop giving this woman headline news for doing what us real cool kids have been doing this whole fucking time. Vaping and getting fingered at Beetlejuice the musical. You didn't invent it, bitch. Get a therapist. And you can sign up at BetterHelp.com. Use promo code Rocky. Children are coming into our melting pot country to seek better lives. By the way, a better life is just what all of us seek or are seeking to maintain by going to work every day. It's the same thing, just different circumstances. Migrant children come here and work in these disgusting, faulty equipment having, pollution promoting factory farms, taking our jobs. So we can dip nuggets into a melting Frosty after hitting the bong and watching Rick and Morty, and then we're not even made aware of their deaths. Let's talk about the wetlands, shall we? And I'm not talking about my seat after I watch a guitar solo. Please try and focus, you animals. A wetland is a place in which land is covered by water, be it salt or fresh, or in between. They're found along the Atlantic, Pacific, Alaskan, and Gulf coasts. They function as their own distinct ecosystem, so independent, and they're a vital ecosystem. Wetlands protect you and me from flooding, and they provide food, and they provide clean water, and they play a positively crucial role in climate change. So what are some small things we can all do to save the wetlands ourselves? We can limit our use of chemicals, fertilizers, and pesticides. If you can use the ever so glamorous animal manure for your garden, do it. Magic mushrooms grow in cow shit, okay? Imagine what that can do for your tomatoes. Reduce the use of your plastic. Try to carry a water bottle to refill. Go glass or can when you can. I know you can. For me, don't be naughty by nature. And if you didn't get that pun or reference, I urge you to become a better fan of hip-hop history. Once I saw a girl I didn't know that well pick up a piece of trash while we walked through her town. It wasn't her trash, but it was her planet. And guess what? You're never going to guess what I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you anyway, and you're going to be like, this is such exciting news. But it's your planet too. If you see a piece of trash in your travels and there's a trash can nearby, bro, pick it up. You can wash your hands after, you can sanitize after. Some of you chow down on a stranger's asshole. Someone you met that night, tongue to rim. And I'm not kink shaming. I'm just putting things into perspective. And I'm not saying pick up something wet or disgusting or slimy. And I'm not saying pick it up with your tongue and eat it. I'm saying if there's an empty Dunkin' cup 2 feet away from a trash can where you are, toss it. And don't litter. Don't litter. That is the fastest way to give me the ick. And just remember, there are a lot worse places that your fingers could be. They could be inside Lauren Bobart's coochie coo while watching Beetlejuice the musical. And that thing bites back. Conserve water, that helps. Your sink does not need to run while your toothbrush is inside your gullet. Just a couple ways that you listening can help our essential wetlands. They need protection. And did you know they were the lungs of America? The wetlands also suck carbon from the atmosphere, and they can store 50 times more carbon than the rainforest. Weird flex on the rainforest wetlands, but go off. Wetlands, we're going to do what we can to protect you. One of the cool things about this meeting of the farmers' minds was the inclusivity and their aim to make farming for BIPOC farmers more equitable. Yes, there are Black farmers, and there would be way more, but that number has taken an unimaginable dive over the last century because of, you guessed it, discrimination by, you probably won't guess this next part if you don't know anything about farming, but discrimination by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, aka the agency that is the economic backbone for American farmers. Black farmers have lost their farmland to state-sanctioned violence, bank discrimination, denial of access to federal farm benefits, and then in turn, those benefits have been given to white farmers. Black farmers make up 1% of farmers in America. 1. Uno, eins, en, and for my Swedish listeners, ett. This is not because Black Americans don't want to be farmers. This is because living in America while Black is like doing a Spartan race on Mount Everest. It ain't easy. And I say that as someone who has lived my Black experience in a porcelain suit of protection because my melanin got sucked up in the womb. I'm like Chris Rock in that movie Down to Earth. Every day. Corporations are coming for Black farmers and their land. Then they'll come for small family white farmers, then mid-level white farmers, Then corporations will come for independent large white farmers and their land. It's a matter of race and pace. It benefits large white farmers to protect black farmers because A, it's the right thing to do, and B, they're then investing in their own protection as well. And it behooves America to support black farmers. In fact, it's imperative to our survival as a country to do so. It's 2023, babe. If you can Google who's Stacey Carosi, you can Google black-owned and operated farms to support. Food can be mailed to you. Donations as support can be done by you. You can find a farmer's market. The internet makes things so easy. And say it with me, you beautiful angels who are soaking up this knowledge. When you know better, you do better. Some quotes I heard at Farm Aid that I thought could help my own world. Capitalism feels fun, but keeping up with the Joneses is no good. AKA, if it's in your Amazon cart, you probably don't need it. Another was, divisiveness is by design. That one's good. Haven't you heard of divide and conquer? They're talking about us. All of us. That shit is on purpose. Just be a cool person that's cool to other people. Micah Nelson said, don't save the world, save your world. Psst. That's actually the secret to saving the world. We're busy, and it's easy and it's convenient to buy corporate. But if you have the privilege and opportunity to buy from a farmer at a farmer's market, let's all try, huh? Even if it's once a month, even if it's 4 times a year. I'd say, but it's more expensive. Sure, it is more expensive, but you're paying in paper. You aren't paying with your health. There's YouTube. Learn how to grow your own food, even if it's just one veggie in one pot. Our food is killing us. So find farm fresh food that isn't. It's your life, it's your body, it's your planet. Farmers make up 1% of Americans. 1% is feeding the 100%. And corporate farming is ruining everything. Everything. I didn't know this information before this year's Farm Aid. I was blissfully ignorant, but now I know. And I'm excited to see how I can implement the change and support farmers on my own. I have one last quote that resonated with me. If you're not dark inside and you come into this world, it'll turn you dark. And if you really have sunshine inside of you, it's not good to play in the dark. It's just going to extinguish your fire. I didn't hear that one at Farm Aid. That was Tupac, but it still hit. That brings us to Rocky's highest thoughts, my most stone thoughts of the week. That's right, baby. We aren't closing out my show without my highest thoughts. Number 1. Some people feel like you should only celebrate milestone birthdays. Anything in between isn't worth it. Not worth getting excited about. Imagine if we did that with deaths. She was 97. 3 more years and we could have really given her a good send-off. It's too bad. How about this? Celebrate every goddamn year you're alive. And don't let people make you feel like you're silly for celebrating your existence if it doesn't end in a 5 or a 0. That's really dumb. Number 2, every time I'm in a room with tons of people, I always think somebody in here's got to be related to Jim Carrey. Number 3, being a locksmith is kind of the coolest job. And number 4, my whole life I thought I was a Rachel, but it turns out I'm a Phoebe. If you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can follow me at Wild Nights with Rocky on TikTok and Instagram, at Wild Nights Pod on Twitter. If you want to watch episodes on YouTube, please subscribe now. You can support the show for $2 or $5 a month by joining my Patreon. If you're laughing week after week, it might be the right thing to do. A big thank you and a future thank you to everyone who's written and everyone who will write a review when this episode is over. It really does make a difference. Thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you laughed a little and I hope you learned a little. I'll see you next week, and in the meantime, stay wild.
Is it?